Hi, we asked you to come in today. You got our letter talking about some of the problems at your house, right? Some of the complaints we've been getting have been lots of traffic. They believe that they're selling cocaine from the house. They haven't actually had any arrests from the house, but neighbors report lots of traffic going on, people stopping their cars, someone going out, seeing their car. Clearly all signs of some trafficking going on.
This demonstration, calling in a landlord to discuss problem properties, shows one way in which the assistant district attorneys and the community prosecution unit act in a proactive way to improve the target neighborhoods.
When we get complaints from either citizens in the neighborhoods, alderpersons, or the police themselves about a problem property, usually complaints of drug trafficking or signs of drug trafficking or even arrests made at the property, or even other nuisance problems like loud noise, lots of partying, we call the landlord in if it's a rental property, which is the majority of the time, and we let them know what's going on because the law requires that they're responsible for what's going on at their properties. We try and come up with a plan of action of what to do, anywhere from the extreme of actually evicting a tenant to maybe just going to talking to the tenant, getting written leases in place, having them take the landlord training class that the city of Milwaukee provides for free, or other things that can better screening to avoid having problems with tenants. And we do this, and then we usually meet in about a month or 2 months after that to see if the problem's been alleviated, which the police will usually keep an eye and let us know. We'll go back to the citizens we spoke to. That's the majority of what we've been doing.
Derek Mosley is the other assistant district attorney staffing the unit.
I think the reason why we chose Milwaukee, why Mr. McCann wanted it here in Milwaukee, is the success he saw in Washington, D.C. The problems with the drug houses, the problems with the nuisance properties. He liked what he saw. Eric Holder, who was the U.S. attorney at that time, had some innovative strategies. They call it outside of the box thinking, and that was a lot of it, and that's a lot that governs our program today.
More of the interview with Derek Mosley a little later. The two report for duty to the 5th District Police Station, not the courthouse, like most assistant district attorneys. The police station is one of 3 satellite offices. It's an effort to put the DAs out in the community to address quality of life and urban blight issues, many of which are reported to them by the officers of the 5th District.
Our grant actually is pretty open about what we can do. So what we've done is meet with different citizen groups, meet with different people we work with, and just come up with whatever programs we feel are going to help the neighborhood. One of the major things we do is go to schools in the neighborhood and give speeches to try and let the kids know what the law says. So many kids have this idea, these strange ideas of what the law says, and also many kids hang out with kids that are getting in trouble and don't realize that they can be responsible for the same thing their friends are doing.
The Community Prosecution Unit is a pilot program operating in 2 Northside neighborhoods, Williamsburg Heights and Harambe. The neighborhoods generally cover the area south of Capitol Drive to Wright Streets from Holton to 16th. Satellite offices are located within community-based organizations in the 2 targeted areas.
Well, I think it's been very helpful. In my opinion of it is that it's doing some good things within the community. I think it gave residents in the community an outlet, a direct outlet to voice some of their concerns and complaints that they have about problems that are in their community. So it's been very positive. I think the most important thing to the Harambe community is the nuisance. Houses, homes, buildings that are nuisance where there may be loud music, there may be kids in the yard barking dogs. I think those type of things that affects the quality of life within any community or any neighborhood. I think they're very concerned about the drug houses that are without the Harambe community. A lot of times when we have had people come and complain to us about drug houses, about nuisance, they didn't want to get involved because they thought maybe the people next door would know that they made that call, so they wouldn't call the police, because they were scared the police was going to give them up or say, well, so-and-so called on you. You know, it was that kind of distrust. I think that has been helped, where there's not as much distrust now, because you've got two actual faces that will go to a person's house, will sit down with a person, will hear the residents out, and then turn right around and go straight on over to the drug house, go straight on over to the people at who's causing the nuisance, or if it's a tavern, and talk with them and let them know what's going on. So it's been really, really positive.
Nuisance properties provide about 80% of the complaints to the Community Prosecution Unit. The attorneys work as an agent for change in these blocks, not merely reacting to problems, not merely processing cases in the courts. People living here are joined by a number of agencies in the effort to improve their neighborhoods. Joining the district attorney are the city attorney, city police, health and public works departments, and the Department of Neighborhood Services. When landlords are called in, they not only hear about property complaints, they are also given advice on how to deal with the problems.
Some of the things we're going to ask you to do you have any no loitering signs posted in the area?
No, I don't.
Would you be willing to post some of those?
Sure.
The benefit of that is you already give me the names of your tenants. There's been complaints of a lot of people hanging out on the porch. If the police go by and see that, they'll have the tenant list and they can go through and see who actually lives there and who doesn't. That may help the problem. We'd also ask you to take the landlord training class. Here's some information about it. It's either 2 nights or 1 whole day. It's a free class. And the great benefit of that, it talks about how to screen your tenants better, so you and how to look for signs of someone that might possibly be dealing or someone that's going to cause a lot of problems, such as noise, because there's lots of complaints of loud music coming from your place too, not just the trafficking, but lots of partying and that kind of thing, which is upsetting to the neighborhood. We'd also ask you to get some written leases. The benefit of a written lease is it specifically will tell the people, one, who can live there and who can't. If there's a lot of trafficking going on, they may be allowing people to live there that aren't supposed to be staying there, and you may not be aware of this. Some of these form applications will specifically state that. They'll state there can be no illegal activity going on the premises. You can still have it month to month. It doesn't have to be a year. It's up to you. But the benefit is it clearly spells out the tenant's rights and clearly spells out your rights and protects both of you. Now, eviction is also another possibility. We're not necessarily going to tell you to evict, but if these problems continue, you may have to consider that. Because as you know, the risk of this is if these kind of activities continue and the neighbors keep complaining, and they're, especially if they're cited for noise ordinances or there's actually any arrests found in the house, on the premises, you are going to lose your property.
Officers at the 5th District Police Station work closely with the assistant district attorneys and are supportive of the effort.
Well, I think Derek and Shannon are an asset to us, and what they do for us and how they assist us is they help our officers obtaining information, or quality information for prosecutions, and it's bringing the different entities throughout the city together to work on the problems in the district, in the Harambe and the Williamsburg Heights area, and the partnership, I think, is working well, and their work in the nuisance properties that they're doing is a great asset to not only to our department, to the community in general.
Community-based organizations think it's a program that could probably benefit other neighborhoods as well.
You know, so I hope they can expand it to other areas. You know, because I think it just gives residents an outlet. You know, that I got two faces that'll come to my house. They're gonna come in. They're gonna totally respect me. You know, it's no suspicion on their part. They're gonna listen to what I have to say. But by having Derek and Shannon, they can say, well, okay, they selling drugs over on Richard Street. Derek and Shannon goes over there, observe what is going on. Their name is not involved. The people see results, so they're more, prone to come forward because they're seeing the direct results.
And while the program is referred to as the Community Prosecution Unit, the attorneys agree it's much more than that.
No, it's really crime prevention. It's something that's new, and it's the first time it's been done in Wisconsin. It's been done in Portland, Oregon, and Indianapolis and in DC and many other states. Denver, Colorado has a really good program, and they've shown that by actually getting closer, we're kind of like liaisons between us and the community. A lot of people in the community have never even met an assistant DA, and listening to what they think will help to alleviate the crime, and just trying to use whatever influence we can to get things initiated and doing these things. It's a different approach, but it's one that has been proven to work in other jurisdictions. And if you see, we're prosecuting, and crime isn't necessarily going down, so we're hoping that different approaches, the kind of out-of-the-box type thinking, can help this problem.
Our discussion of the Community Prosecution Unit program continues now with Milwaukee County Assistant District Attorney Derek Mosley. And we welcome you to our Insight Milwaukee program, first of all.
Thank you, Tom.
Let's talk, first of all, about this being a pilot program and relatively new, just since last July.
That's correct. The Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office, as well as the Williamsburg Heights Neighborhood Association, which was run by Rosa Cameron Rollins, who's now an alderwoman, and Sherman Hill, who's the executive director of the Harambe Ombudsman Project, got together with Mr. McCann and Chief Arthur Jones to put together this program. My boss, Mr. McCann, Michael McCann, heard Eric Holder speak, who is now the Deputy Attorney General, but at the time was the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C. He started this program, was impressed by the program, and made efforts to establish one here in Milwaukee.
Why Milwaukee?
Well, I think the reason why we chose Milwaukee, why Mr. McCann wanted it here in Milwaukee, is the success he saw in Washington, D.C. The problems with the drug houses, the problems with the nuisance properties. He liked what he saw. Eric Holder, who was the U.S. Attorney at that time, had some innovative strategies. They call it outside-of-the-box thinking, and that was a lot of it, and that's a lot that governs our program today.
Are we unique, or is this being done elsewhere?
We're unique as far as the state of Wisconsin is concerned. However, there are approximately 158 neighborhood DAs or community prosecutors throughout the country, representing about 27 states.
You work with a lot of different people in this community prosecution unit. What about the formation of it? What went into development of the program here in Milwaukee?
What happened was, like I stated, Executive Director Sherman Hill, who was the Executive Director of the Harambe Ombudsman Project, which is one of our offices, and Rosa Cameron Rollins, who was the Executive Director of the Williamsburg Heights Neighborhood Association prior to becoming alderwoman, met with Chief Jones and the Captain Dennis Druskowski at District 5, which is the police district for those areas, met together with Mr. McCann. They came up with a proposal using crime analysis that they thought this would be a great neighborhood to use the community prosecutor. We could have a strong effect there. So we got those groups together, and we put the program together. Then we held a number of community meetings where we got the community together. They came in, and we asked them what was the #1 priority here in the neighborhood. 99% of them said drugs. Drugs were the main priority. Well, as a DA and as a DA's office, we've been prosecuting drug offenses since the beginning of time. But we wanted to do something outside of the box, a new way to attack it. And we started treating them as nuisance properties. And which is interesting about it is we weren't the first to think of this. Assistant City Attorney David Hallbrooks and his group of nuisance abatement police officers have been doing this for a while, and they've been representing the entire city. So we thought, let's do that. Let's concentrate on the Harambe and the Williamsburg Heights neighborhoods. That'll take off some of the heat on the city attorney's office, and then we can step in and do that there. So it was interesting. We went to a conference in D.C., which was comprised of a bunch of assistant district attorneys and city attorneys who were community prosecutors. Everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's treating the drug houses as nuisances. And it's something that I think Milwaukee was starting a lot sooner than everybody else was doing, but now with the DA's office on board, it seems to help out the city attorney's office as well.
You mentioned the two neighborhoods, Harambe and Williamsburg. Basically, where are they for our audience?
Sure. For the grant purposes, we treat Harambe as Capitol Drive to the north. We go down to Wright Street to the south, even though Harambe goes all the way down to Walnut Street to the south. We use Holton Street as the eastern border, and we use I-43 as the western border. That represents Harambe. Williamsburg Heights, for our purposes of our grant, shares the same northern border in Capitol Drive, and we'll use the same southern border as Wright Street. The eastern border is I-43, and the western border is North 16th Street.
The district attorney's office, normally we think of that as being in the safety building. You are out in the neighborhood right now, but not only in the police district station, you've got a couple locations.
Right. We have 3 satellite offices within our 2 target areas. The first office is at the District 5 police station, which is located on 4th and Locust. Our second site is at the Harambe Ombudsman Project, which is located at 335 West Wright Street. And our third location is the Williamsburg Heights Block Club Association, which is located at 907 West Atkinson.
What is this unit all about? What basically do you do when you're out there in the neighborhoods?
Well, basically, community prosecution is a proactive crime-fighting approach which involves the DA's office, the Milwaukee Police Department, community-based organizations, and the citizenry. Basically, prosecutors become actual agents for change instead of just mere reactive elements processing cases. We do not report downtown, as I noted. We report to the satellite stations. We're out in the community every day. I don't wear a suit every day because I'm out in the community every day. Basically, what we do are a number of things. About 80% of our work is nuisance properties. 80% of the work we do involves nuisance properties. And that's basically, we get complaints from the citizens, we get complaints from the police department that they've been called to this house a number of times, or the citizens say drug dealing is going on, or there's a bunch of nuisances, noise nuisance, rats, roaches, whatever it may be. Non-traditional DA stuff. And we get that complaint, we get a hold of the landlord, get the landlord into the office, talk to the landlord, tell them these are the complaints we received from the community, what are you going to do about it? Basically, we tell them we will help you solve any problem that you have. 99%, and we've had a pretty good, about 100% compliance rate, most of the landlords just evict. That's not what we're looking for ultimately, but if that's what the way they want to handle it, that's fine. A lot of them don't want to be bothered with the hassle, especially if there's drug dealing involved, they want them out. So most of them evict. Then we come back into the process and we help them screen. We'll run a criminal record for them. We'll run an eviction record for them. We'll do whatever they want for the tenants or people who are be coming to the residence for the landlord free of charge. Our goal is that they will rent and screen their applicants better so we have better tenants. And that's about 80% of what we do. We have been involved recently in the establishment of Safe and Sound. There are approximately 7,500 kids that fall into that category that have absolutely nothing to do during those hours, and you see them sitting on the corners, hanging out in these vacant lots, just up to no good. Some of them are up to no good, some of them are just waiting to be up to no good. And so what we do is we provide them with something to do between 4 and 9. We pick them up. There are 4 stops on the way to the Safe and Sound site that we help establish. They take them to the Safe and Sound between 4 and 9. There's recreational activities like basketball, volleyball, what have you. There's educational opportunities. There's a quiet area where they can go and study, get their homework done. And actually, that's a requirement of the Safe and Sound, that all homework is done prior to getting to doing the recreational activities. There's a computer lab on site, so these kids, many of them for the first time, get to surf the net and get to see what kids in the suburbs have been enjoying for many years now. There's adult supervision there on the site. There's everything from helping them compile resumes if they're looking for summer jobs, anything that can help them between those hours of 4 and 9 so that they're doing something productive and not just out on the street waiting for trouble to find them.
You said non-traditional DA stuff. Why is the DA involved in this non-traditional stuff?
I guess the main reason why we're involved is I think we've all come to the conclusion that we're not going to prosecute our way out of many of the problems that we have that are facing the city of Milwaukee. It appears that we need to get on the front end of these problems. By the time the case comes to me as a DA in court, it's a little bit too late for the person in front of me and a little bit too late for the people in the community. They've already been victimized. We hope by coming in at the forefront that we don't have to worry about the back half. If we can have some influence on the people in the community and the neighbors in the community so that these crimes aren't committed, then we don't have to worry about it as DA sitting in court.
And it's been pointed out, I think, a number of times, this is a collaboration, and you've talked about the police department, community-based organizations, and we're also talking about many departments within the city, aren't we?
That's
Public
correct.
Works, Neighborhood Services, the Health Department.
You're absolutely correct. All those parties are involved. Department of Neighborhood Services, Department of Public Works, the Health Department's involved. They're all part of our collaborative. And for the first time ever, I believe in the city of Milwaukee, all of these agencies are working together for the common goal. I mean, we've all been doing our own little thing since they've been established, but now we're all working together. And that's the DA's office, the city attorney's office, the police department, Department of Neighborhood Services, Department of Public Works, Health Department, all together to improve the quality of life and to reduce urban blight in the city of Milwaukee.
Talking about kids in the Safe and Sound program, you also are proactive in that you go out and talk to kids in the schools.
Yes, we do that. We put on a speech that we call The Law in You. It's basically myself and my partner, Shannon Carrick. We put on a program affecting the laws affecting individuals between the ages of 13 and 18. There's been a lot of changes in the juvenile code. It's gone from a children's code to a juvenile code now. It's moved in the statute books, and it's been a lot of changes that people aren't aware of. Little simple things that once you turn 17, you are now an adult as far as the criminal justice system is concerned. It used to be 18, now it's 17. Little things like that, when you could be waived into adult court. Just little laws that affect them every day, but they may not know about it. Party to a crime is a big part of our lecture, how you can be involved in a crime even though you didn't directly commit it by helping that person commit the crime. It's been a wonderful speech. We've been doing it to middle schools and to the local high schools in the area, and we've had a lot of good feedback from it.
What about educational efforts for the citizenry in general, or even members of the police department? Do they need some kind of information about the legal processes as well?
Sure, and that's actually a good thing about being located in the district station, because there's a number of occasions where a police officer will come up and say, what do I need for probable cause on here, and do I have enough for probable cause on here? Do you think that this is a case that would be issued? And being there at the district, they don't have to call down to the DA's office, be put on hold and wait for somebody to respond to their questions. Someone's actually there. Should I bring this down to the DA's office? Is there enough for a crime here? Is this a felony or a misdemeanor? Where do I find these in the statutes? We're there. We're like a one-stop shop for everything you need to know about criminal law, which is good and bad, of course. But it has helped us out at District 5. It's helped the officers. I think the officers are writing better reports, and I think the cases are stronger when they come down to the DA's office.
I noticed among the responsibilities you talked about working with offenders and even in unemployment programs, many things way beyond, again, the non-traditional DA stuff you talked about.
You are correct. And that's the weirdest part about it. When I bring up what I'm doing as a DA, a lot of people say to me, well, that's far out. I mean, no one ever thought that DAs would be doing this. But our unemployment and our offender initiative basically involves the Harambe and Williamsburg Heights neighborhoods. Individuals who are currently incarcerated and are soon to be released back into those neighborhoods, we want to make sure when they're released from the facility and brought back to this neighborhood that they have something to go on, that they're not just being released in the neighborhood on unsuspecting members of the community. We're working with the DOC, the Milwaukee Police Department, the DA's office, WIDA, the Northeast Milwaukee Industrial Development Corporation. We're working with the Martin Luther King Economic Development Center. All these groups are together, and what happens is we're hoping, and it will be up and running. Actually, it will be up and running soon. An offender, when he comes out of the facility, we're hoping that offender right there already has an ID, which DOC will make arrangements so they have some form of identification, whether it be an ID card or a driver's license, but some form of ID. Also, that offender will also have a Social Security card. Now, these are things they can do while in the facility. They have all this time on their hands. There's something they can do when they come out to make themselves employable. So when they come out, then they get hooked up with our first phase of our program, and that is the job training. We've been working with Northeast Milwaukee Industrial Development Corporation, and they'll place you into work and then make that, as you work, give you an educational component as well, which is good for us as far as the offenders are concerned, because on their parole rules, we can make that a condition, that not only do you have to work for employment, but you also must fulfill that educational requirement. We're looking for GEDs and HSEDs. So while they're working, they're getting their GEDs. Our next phase, phase 2, is to actually place them into jobs for a long time. We're not looking for temporary jobs. We're looking for family-sustaining jobs, family-sustaining wages. And we think we have a pool of those jobs. They start those jobs, they work in those jobs. If they continue that employment for a year, then our final phase comes into play, and that's WIDA. WIDA comes in and says, you've been working for a year, you've shown a commitment to this community, we will help you out with no down payment loans or low interest loans so that you can get a house. And that's what we want. We want the offenders coming back into the community to be stakeholders, to own homes so that they have a stake in the community. Because that is the problem affecting both Williamsburg Heights and Harambe neighborhoods are home ownership, low home ownership. If we can increase the home ownership rate, then that will decrease the crime rates here in both those target neighborhoods.
You've only been in business about 6 months. Do you have any evidence that indicates that what you're doing is really making a difference out there?
I think the biggest evidence, as you call it, that I see that we're doing, making a difference, are the people who come up to me. We get people call us in the community, it's kind of a joke, call us the foot soldiers, because that's what we do. We're out on the street, walking up and down the block, trying to develop block clubs, trying to develop Block Watch, and we meet with people every day on the streets. And so when you meet with people and they say, you know, we like what you're doing, you know, we like the fact that you knew it was a drug house across the street, we told you it was a drug house across the street, and now those people are out, new people are in, and they have a commitment to the community. And that's what we're looking for, the turnover. The problem that we had in the past with the drug houses, the police would come in and make an arrest, and they would do their job, arrest the offender and let the system take over. Well, that person could be released on bail or released pending the court date. He goes back to that house and starts up shop again while his court case is pending. Citizens see that. The neighbor across the street sees that, and they feel hopeless. Here I am, I call in this drug house, they arrest the offender, 2 days later he's back out, he's up and running. Now my life's in danger, I made the call. We stopped that by integrating the landlord into the process, by telling them we're holding you accountable for that property, what goes on in that property and the people you rent to. So they take an active role, they're no longer absentee, and many of them evict, and they get good tenants in there. Neighbors see that. They see good tenants. They see kids playing out front in a long time. I haven't seen that. And that makes me feel good, and that makes us feel good. And when you get neighbors involved, that makes the DA's job easier because you have better witnesses. You have people on the scene that saw what happened and have a commitment. Neighborhood block watches and block clubs are the best thing to happen to the DA's office because they give us the best information.
How long the pilot program, how long will it be in effect?
The program is an 18-month grant and will officially be over December of 2001. At that point, we will reapply for a sustaining grant to keep the program going. If that doesn't work, then we will try to seek funds elsewhere to keep the program. I know it's Mr. McCann's goal to have 2 DAs in every district station, and I think it'll go a long way to improving the relations between the police, the DA's office, and the citizens of Milwaukee.
Sounds like you certainly would make a recommendation to him that he do that if he can.
You better believe it.